Tides and Trails is presented each week at this time by new Sportsman King Size Filter Cigarette. Now here's Ted Peck.
Hi everyone, and once again Tides and Trails goes roaming, and this time in the South Country. Once again we're going to go to two places tonight. First of all, we're going to return to Grand Cayman Island in the West Indies, and we're also going to go over to Los Angeles for a visit with Marineland of the Pacific. But first of all, I'd like to draw the island of Grand Cayman once again and relate it to where it is in the Caribbean, so that most of you have a general idea where we visited. It's such a small little island. It's only about 20 miles in total length, but a beautiful vacation spot. Once again, if you remember from our previous show, it has a large bay at the top end of it, and it's more or less shaped like this. It's not quite this even, but the main reason I show you this is the fact that this is the shallow water in here. It's all under 7 feet or 8 feet at the most in depth, but right off these 2 points here, it's very, very deep water. And we're going to go fishing down there for not only this wahoo that you saw me washing, but we're going to catch barracuda as well. The barracuda is quite a famous game fish all throughout the Caribbean. That's just the main island. Once again, the hotels are over here, and the place where you get the boats and so on to go out into this deep water through the shallow bay is right about in here. It's a distance of about 4 or 5 miles. But to relate this once again to the rest of the islands in the Caribbean and so on, most of you know where Cuba is here, and Jamaica is roughly to the south of Cuba, and the Central America would be over here, and South America starts about there. And the Cayman Islands, the two of them, in fact, there's 3 of them. They're very, very small. There's Grand Cayman, and there's 2 or 3 other little teeny ones. They're roughly over about in here. So you're quite close to Central America, and you, of course, are in the Caribbean Sea. And Havana being up here, and you have the end of Florida roughly about in here, the big, long end of Florida. That's where we went fishing, and what we were going fishing for, once again, are barracuda and wahoo. So those of you who have fished along the southern coasts, either of the Atlantic or the Pacific, or over in Hawaii, will know a wahoo is a large deep-sea striped fish related to the kingfish, and is a very, very strong fighter. It's not an acrobat or an aerialist like the marlin. Fights much like the tuna. It is a very, very good eating fish. It's called an ono in Hawaii. And then we have the barracuda, which are very vicious. One of them actually bit me in the thumb while I was down in the Caribbean and caused a bit of fish poisoning. And in the second half, as I say, we're going to go to Los Angeles, to Marineland of the Pacific, which is just magnificent. We'll tell you about that in a few seconds. But right now, if you'd all like to join me and add some pleasure to your leisure and light up a Sportsman King Size Filter Cigarette, I know that we'll sit back in our easy chairs and enjoy together this trip that we took down to Grand Cayman Islands, deep sea fish. We were still trying for marlin, but we ended up with a beautiful, about 80 or 90 pound wahoo. Here we are leaving the initial spot where I told you on this big shallow bay, North Bay, and we have as our companions this time Miss Dalton Marpole, who's in the travel business, call her Dot, and Hugh McLennan, who lives in Vancouver and was on a holiday on this particular trip, sponsored by the Elgin Hotels and the PW Airlines, the Pacific Western Airlines, who run charter flights right from Vancouver to the Grand Cayman Islands. Sunglasses pretty well a must. The very, very brilliant sun down there, very clear water. Leaving reasonably early in the morning for a day's fishing, you can get out anywhere from 7 to 9 in the morning, and they'll keep you out all day long. And the charter fees on these trips are much more reasonable than you will find in some of the more better known commercially exploited sport fishing areas. Grand Cayman is just starting now as a real tourist center, and the fees are very reasonable. I think we were something like $35 for the day on this particular boat. Baiting up with slabs of smaller fish and also using artificial lures, these large spoons. There's Hugh McLennan and some of the crew of the boat. There was 2 of them on board this particular craft, using a geared reel, a little bit small for marlin. Some of the tackle that we found on board this particular boat, well, I would have been a little bit leery of playing a marlin over 150 pounds on it, because the length of line is quite important. You've got to let them run. And the first fishes that we caught were barracuda, and they're a very vicious fish. We want to caution anyone going into the Caribbean to watch out for their teeth. Even though you think they're subdued, this is not always the case. They're not as spectacular a fighter as, for instance, a trout or a salmon, but they certainly are equal to the lake trout or any of the pike family. They're shaped not unlike a muskellunge or a pike, but they have much sharper teeth, and they can swim at tremendous speeds, and they attack anything that moves when in the mood. They move about singly or in pairs or in packs, and they'll go through a school of fish slashing, and that's the way they obtain their food. And as I say, we caught them on both the slabs of meat there, as you see, and the large imitation fish, or these large spoons. Trolling at a reasonably moderate speed of about 3.5 to 4 knots, quite a bit faster than one might troll for lake trout, muskellunge, or salmon on the coast in the northern waters. Temperature always about 80 to 85 degrees. There's Dot with a barracuda on, her very first fish that she's caught in a long time. She'd certainly get a kick out of this one. Caught it on that great big large spoon, a little barracuda, not too big, I would say about 4 to 6 pounds, somewhere in that realm. But I want you to watch closely as we attempt to dispatch it, the expression on Dot's face when she finds that the fish is not completely subdued. She's quite happy now and proud of it, and we again, whoops, see, you've got to watch out. This one, they can give you a bad slash with their teeth, and they're just like razors. There she is, Dot Marpole with her barracuda, offering Hughie McLennan and Dot both a Sportsman king-size filter at the completion of Dot's first catch. Into another fish now, this time it's Hume's. Hume was down there on a vacation with his wife Jane and family, and certainly enjoyed it. A little bit bigger barracuda, this one being about 8 pounds. They go up to about 60 pounds, but they average about 5 to 15. But I can't express too violently the fact that their teeth are very, very vicious. And they even snap at you when they're in the boat. According to the scuba and skin divers who work the area, there have been the occasional barracuda slash. Here's Cameron Bill getting in his fishing too. Actually, Bill hooked the largest fish. It was his turn on the big rod, and he hooked this wahoo, and then of course he had to take the rest of the pictures, so Uncle Stumbly took over the rod. But Bill's hooked him here. It'd be about an 80 or 85 pound wahoo, known in Hawaii as ono. These fish are also found along the southern coast of California. They're also found in the South Atlantic coast off Florida too. And as I say, they put up a tremendous battle, and it lasts for a fish this size on the tackle we had, lasted for just about an hour. But you can't take many pictures of them because they do most of their fighting under the water. This is just about at the end of it here when it came alongside the boat. You still see he's got lots of life left in him. Very streamlined shaped fish and very, very good eating. Hence the Hawaiian name ono, are good. using nylon line, in this case, of about 80-pound test, so it wasn't really a fair fight. We were fishing for 150 to 300-pound marlin. But anytime you catch one of these fish, it's a welcome sight on the tables of the local residents of Grand Cayman. Pretty well done now, and applying the gaff right under the chin, where we recommend you gaff most fish so you don't spoil any of the meat. And Dot was very excited when this 80-pound monster, the largest fish she'd ever seen, came on board the ship. They have very, very sharp teeth, too, but nothing compared with the barracuda. Hume, of course, being very pleased as well, the success of a day's fishing. There's a lot of good steaks in that Ono, or Wahoo, and certainly he provided a good fight for both Cameraman Bill and myself for a good hour. Very, very fitting time to add pleasure to our leisure with our Sportsman king-size filters, and we introduced them to a lot of the local residents of Grand Cayman, and they certainly appreciated them. And a nice relaxing trip back through that North Bay Sound, watching the coral along the bottom. It's a shame we don't have the color television that we could show you the real beautiful blues and greens and the white coral. You'd see the fish many feet down into the ocean. There's certainly no exaggeration about the beautiful blue Caribbean, or Caribbean, if some of you like to pronounce it that way. And here is where we show you washing the Wahoo, because after all it had got covered with a few specks of this, that, and the other, and we wanted to have it nice and clean when we took it back to the hotel. That's Hume McLennan, who swims like a fish, and as I say, really enjoying his vacation and washing the 80 pounds of Wahoo to get it in pretty shape for the still cameras. $80 pounds of very good fighting and very good eating fish. The island of Grand Cayman, once again, is not a republic or a dominion, as is Jamaica. It is still in what they call the British West Indies, and is still governed by an administrator from Jamaica, actually. It's sort of under the protectorship now of Jamaica, as well as from the Crown. And everything there is in pounds, shillings, and pence, all the money, and people drive on the left and so on. It's a wonderful holiday atmosphere for those of you who want a winter holiday in the Caribbean. Back to the Coral Caymanian Hotel where we were staying, and Jane McLennan admires her husband's efforts there, along with the gorgeous catch of 80 pounds of Wahoo.
Hi, how would you like to store your fish and game in this beautiful Philco freezer? Well, you can if you're one of the 21 lucky winners on our exciting new Tides and Trails contest. Just imagine having this beauty in your home. It has 18 cubic feet of space and holds 625 pounds of frozen food. It has 2 big baskets, 2 dividers, a juice caddy, and this large combination divider for your added convenience. It's a real beauty, isn't it? To enter the Tides and Trails contest, all you have to do is answer this question. How many gold leaves are there on a pack of Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes? Write your answer on a Sportsman cigarette package or facsimile and send it with your name and address to Tides and Trails, care of this station. Get your entries in today, as many as you like, and good luck from the Western winner, new Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, before we take you to Marineland, a few general words about it. those of you who are traveling anytime during your vacations, it's open all the time, is located south of the main city of Los Angeles and Hollywood and so on. And it's on a peninsula and a great big sort of a cliff, a mountainous cliff called the Palos Verdes Estates. And it overlooks the sea, but it is located at least 200 to 250 feet above sea level. And they have to pump all their water that you see, that you're going to be seeing in these films. They have to pump this up the hill and change it all the time. It's continuously being filtered and changed to keep all the fish happy, as well as the whales and the dolphins. Now, certainly if you're a fish lover like I am and love to see the antics of fish, they have this huge big tank that you have several levels of viewing the fish on. But one of the main attractions, naturally, are the way that these whales and porpoises or dolphins are trained to behave almost in human fashion. So while you're watching the films, I want you to pay really close attention to the way the whale can do the twist, for instance, to music, and the way these dolphins can leap, a good 50, 60 feet out of the water in unison and formation, and the way they come out onto the sides of the pools where they have them doing their acts, and they're actually hand-fed. And this is why you'll see me actually feeding a whale, a full-grown pilot whale, and you'll see me listening to a dolphin talk through a microphone, and so many of these wonderful sights that you're going to be able to see if you ever visit Marineland of the Pacific. And the cost is very, very reasonable. And before we show you the films, I'd like to thank personally the Public Relations Director of Marineland of the Pacific, Mr. Bill Campeau, who's actually a former Canadian from Port Arthur, Ontario. And he's down there now doing a wonderful job with Marineland, making sure that the more people that can see it, the better. It's a wonderful education for your children, and certainly a must when visiting anywhere in western United States, and if you're in California particularly. A special trip to Marineland would be well worth it. So now, let us imagine that we have gone from Grand Cayman Island, we've come back up to the United States, we've crossed it, we're over on the Pacific coast now in the city of Los Angeles, which of course is famous for many, many things. At the Los Angeles airport, hot and sunny once again, even in the middle of winter. The great control tower and palm trees everywhere. And general subtropical weather. There's the restaurant, the very famous restaurant there, right in the center of the great mall of the Los Angeles airport. And here is Marineland, and how high up it is above the sea. This is one of the things that struck me immediately. I thought they'd have it right along the seacoast, right at sea level. And here is the Dolphin Training School, where an underwater diver with a hard hat and helmet and so on, and air hose, goes down and trains them to be fed by hand, and scolds them and punishes them by patting them on the nose if they're a little bit rough about accepting the mackerel that they're fed with. Now, something to remember from an educational standpoint, particularly for the youngsters, is that a dolphin or a porpoise is not a fish any more than a whale is a fish. Here I'm feeding one at the surface. That's the same tank where you saw the diver down below using a little mackerel. But none of these mammals are fish in any form. They bear their young alive, they nurse their young, but they do live in salt water. And most of the dolphins and whales found at Marineland of the Pacific are caught within a few miles of the site of where Marineland exists. Dolphin, here's another attraction for many people, one of the very few walruses ever found to breed in captivity. They have a family of walruses taken from the Arctic. And they are just about the homeliest of all animals to be ever found. And they grow at a tremendous rate, something like 10 pounds per day. And here we are listening to the speech of the walrus, and they have a grunting noise. It's a very pitiful sound. There are two of the trained dolphins diving, and these scenes are taken in a great giant fish tank aquarium that is, I don't know how many million gallons of water are in it, but each level has a different floor in Marineland that you can watch the various species of fish that exist at certain levels in the ocean. And it's something like 50 feet deep. And right on the surface you have your very active surface feeding fish. And on the way down you have sharks like this one, a leopard shark, various types of rock fishes. And right along the bottom you have your great huge bottom feeding fishes as well. The groupers that go up to 1,200 and 1,500 pounds, your giant sawfishes. And for all the fishes of the warmer seas, this Marineland has an example and a specimen of each. Jacks and pompanos. And here's a giant sawfish. This one weighs something like 1,600 pounds. It's a member of the shark family. And the little surface feeding bonito on the top. And you could spend a whole day just in this one fish tank, even if you did not take the trouble to enjoy thoroughly the acts put on by the various whales and dolphins. But for my own education, Cameraman Bill and I and manager John Barley went down there and we spent a delightful afternoon just learning about the different types of fish that we can make future Tides and Trails episodes about. The yellowtail, for instance, a wonderful sport fish. We'd love to return and do some strip casting and some spinning for yellowtail, which fights just like a salmon. These are your yellowtail here. A distant cousin and member of the tuna family, but a very active one. And the various jacks and pompanos, striped bass. The warmer seas of California have a great abundance of types of fish, and some of them, of course, very active sport fishes, some of them a little sluggish and slow, much like the Pacific Coast cod family of the yellowtail. The grouper. Some of those groupers were hiding under sunken logs and things down there. They're just huge. I think the world's record grouper is well over 1,500 pounds. The other porpoise and dolphin training school again. There's two types of them, the striped one and the plain one. Striped dolphins. Of course, Marineland has been well publicized since its opening a few years ago, and I've just been looking forward all my life to visiting it since it opened. Here's a piranha, which is, of course, found in South American rivers, the most deadly fish that swims. It can reduce a human being to a skeleton by a group of 4 or 5 of them in a very, very few seconds. They just slash at everything. All sorts of little tropical and subtropical fishes in small tanks around the large one. But these various acts and shows that they put on, you can't over-dramatize and over-emphasize the fact that they're good, because they are terrific. They have a staff of biologists and trained individuals teaching them all the time. Even while the shows are going on, they're still training the younger ones. Because like anything else, the actors soon reach their prime, and like these two dolphins, they have a name. And here we're listening to the dolphin talk. It makes a squeaking noise, and it's coming out onto the shore of the pool for food as part of the act. Now remember, this again I'd like to emphasize, they're not fish, they're mammals. And they appreciate affection, like any other domesticated mammal. And this is how they train them, not by bullying them or by fear, but by affection and feeding them. Much as you train a dog, and they become very, very interesting pets for these trainers. And they get them to jump in unison and perform all sorts of acts. And here's the first time that they'd ever had 3 dolphins out on the side of the pool at once. And here is a whale, a full-grown whale, weighing at least a ton, and it's doing the twist to music. Now, can you imagine the amount of training that went on to get this beast to do that, and a whale to jump over a rope, to jump for food some 30 feet above the pool. As I say, all year round, Marineland is operating. Anytime you're in California, it's a must to visit it, just south of Los Angeles. And the way they train these dolphins and whales is by a bell underneath the surface of the water. When they want them to perform certain acts, they ring this bell with their foot, the trainers do. And conditioned reactions being what they are, the dolphins and whales will respond in certain preordained manner as directed by the trainers. There's the bell. See it hanging under the water there? and the two dolphins leaving for their periodic jump. And they all do it at certain specific times. When the announcer says, "Here they come right on cue. It's like a couple of jets of the Golden Hawks or Blue Eagles. I mean, they're the same principle. Perfect formation, perfect timing. And here's where I get to feed the whale. He came right up onto the little platform there, the training platform, and was hand-fed. Certainly an experience of a lifetime. Over a ton of whale coming out and saying, "Please, I'd like a herring or a mackerel for breakfast." And two very obedient and well-trained porpoises there waiting to perform their next act. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I certainly hope that you appreciated the Grand Cayman Wahoo show and, of course, our visit to Marineland of the Pacific. And if you're ever in California, as I say once again, a must to take your children to for their own education and for your own as well. And just in closing, though, I'd like to make a serious point. And that is that Tides and Trails does visit the outside areas other than Canada, of course, and particularly during the winter months. But we're very, very proud of our own fishing, our own hunting, and our own general outlook on conservation all throughout this country. So just because you see us visiting the South Seas or other countries, it is only by way of comparison to our own and to show each one of us who live in Canada, north of the 49th parallel, that we have the finest hunting, fishing, boating, and camping in the world. But we're certainly appreciating all your comments, both personally and by letter, about the other shows in other areas of the world. So we're going to give you some of each, and we appreciate, as I say once again, your most valuable and most interesting comments. So thanks for being with us again tonight. Be a true sportsman, smoke Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes, and Ted Peck wishing you all the best, and once more, tight lines and straight shooting.
Tides and Trails was brought to you by new Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes. Join Ted Peck next week at the same time. Tides and Trails was produced for Sportsman Cigarettes by CHAN-TV, Vancouver.